Thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Under strange and unexplainable circumstances. Most cases remain unsolved. What happened? Where did they go? Locations unknown.
Thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a guy who can totally build the new studio all by himself while I'm hiking, Mike Vanda Bogart.
Oh, thank you, Joe, and thank you to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in. We're back.
We're back.
Back in the new studio. Like Joe said, I did build it all myself.
Yep. I was with my daughter in the Pacific Northwest because she's going off to college in a couple weeks. I had an excuse.
But we are back. If you're watching this, watching the video of this is not the final set. The true set is being constructed, so we're excited for that.
Actually, per your normal action is, you didn't really surprise me. You told me about it. You always can't wait.
I know.
But it was a good surprise.
I did tell
I'm kind of surprised.
It'll probably be ready in like a month or so. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. So just a couple of announcements before we get going. So new Patreon shoutouts. Been off for a month. So we got Cody Board, Nicole Klute, Mike's mom. So my mom signed up, and that's the name she used.
She's like, all right, I'll sign up now.
Yeah, finally, after 8 years. But no, thank you to my mom. Danny Kalaza, Tracy Carnoli, and Kate Kubiak. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to everybody who is signing up and supporting the show. It's because of you we are able to move into this new studio and make an amazing new set that I'm super excited about.
Absolutely.
Episode suggestion shout out to another show on our network, Crime Off the Grid. We're going to be doing a show with them in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited for.
Yeah, if you were on our live stream.
Yes.
And did you repost just that interview?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite interviews that we did. So
yeah, they're two retired law enforcement officers that worked in the national parks and national forests for many, many years. So we're excited to talk with them. Also, Summer Shears and Brett McKenzie, your hats are coming.
Your hats are coming.
They've been owed hats for a long time, and now our new store is up and running.
Yeah,
so,
and production of our old hat company went under.
They went under during COVID.
Yeah,
then we ran out of stock. So
yeah,
we will get hats to you. But anyone who's listening, if you sign up for Patreon, not only do you get all the other stuff that comes with it, but you also get 35% off in our store, and we're going to be adding new stuff to it all the time. Joe has some playing cards here I gave to him earlier.
Look at that.
Pretty cool.
Look at so nice.
If you want to call the show, leave a voicemail or text. You can call 208-391-6913. Also, check out some of the other shows on our network, Peanut and Butter Mountain Podcast, Off the Trails, Who Runs This Park, Crime Off the Grid. If you want to support the show, you can support us on Patreon, YouTube memberships, premium subscriptions on Apple and Spreaker. And if money's tight, just drop us a subscribe, a like, leave a comment, anything you can. That helps with the overlords that run the show.
Yeah.
Get our show out there to the masses. So
absolutely.
All right. Anything from you, Joe?
All right, everybody. Let's gear up and get out to explore Locations Unknown. September 17th, 2024. A young adventurer embarked on a solo 7-day trek through rugged, isolated terrain fraught with grizzlies, sudden storms, and treacherous cliffs in Yellowstone National Park. Amid fog, sleet, and howling winds, he reached the summit of Eagle Peak, leaving a chilling note about his ordeal before vanishing without a trace. Join us this week as we investigate the strange disappearance of Austin King Henke. So this is one of the few major parks that I still have yet to visit.
I've driven through it. I hiked Teton, which is just south of it.
Oh wait, no, I was at Yellowstone. I'm thinking of the other big one.
Grand Teton?
No, I was in Teton as well. Oh my gosh, the Half Dome. Where's Half Dome?
Yosemite.
Yosemite. It's been a long July. We'll just put it that way. I've done a lot of traveling. I'm not back to my normal
You've been
self.
hiking for the whole month? It sounds terrible.
I'm not complaining. I'm saying my brain hasn't stopped. It's not functioning at full power. That's all I'm saying. So never mind. I've been to Yellowstone and Tetons. I just went like 3 years ago for the first time though. So anyway, so we're in Yellowstone National Park where I have been.
We think.
Yeah, remote southeast backcountry is the region. The last visible contact for our friend was at Howell Creek Patrol Cabin area. He's dropped off at Terrace Point, and the last known location was the summit of Eagle Peak at 11,367 feet. For those of you who don't know, 96% of the park is in Wyoming. Smaller portions extend into Montana and Idaho. It was established on March 1st of 1872.
I believe it's the oldest park in the country.
It is the oldest park in the country. It has 4.7 million visitors per year. That was last year. So that's a lot of people.
It's a busy park, and you know it's busy. 9 out of 10
4.7 million people
fail
went.
videos of people getting like mauled by bison or falling into something are
Gored.
from Yellowstone. So,
Bison gore people.
gore people. Okay.
Bears maul.
Well, okay. There we
Come
go.
on. I'm just stopping anyone who is just picking up their phone to go comment on Spotify about
Yes.
how dumb we are.
No, you got to call the number.
4 out of 5 of them come from Yellowstone.
I mean, every video I see, I feel like I see
Yeah.
like viral videos from Yellowstone.
When they're not falling into the geyser because they went off the platform.
Did you see that crazy video a few weeks ago of the bison that fell in?
Yes, I did.
That was wild.
You should have stayed on the path. We followed directions. That is natural selection right there.
It's always funny when you see a video like that. Obviously, that's probably happened in the past, but there's always comments like, "Why didn't somebody help it?"
Yeah, it's a bus
Yeah,
that does what it wants. Like,
yeah, like
that's
oh, someone's just gonna run out there and like grab the bison out of the 200-degree water.
yeah. Anyway, so some interesting facts about Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone sits atop one of the world's largest active supervolcanoes with a massive caldera measuring 45 by 30 miles, capable of eruptions 1,000 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. So
That goes off, we're pretty much screwed.
the whole planet's done. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yes.
The park experiences, but I'd actually rather be on it than in the nuclear winter.
Thankfully, it erupts very infrequently. So
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of nuclear winter.
no, I don't think we'll have to experience that. But
We would be dead here,
yes,
hopefully right away.
yeah.
Anyway, the park experiences between 1,000 and 3,000 earthquakes annually, most too small to feel due to its volatile volcanic underbelly. Yellowstone boasts over 10,000 hydrothermal features, including more than 500 geysers. Half of all the geysers on Earth are within Yellowstone. At 3,472 square miles, Yellowstone is larger than the states of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. It was established as the world's first national park on March 1st, 1872, nearly 2 decades before Wyoming, Montana, or Idaho even became states. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yellowstone is home to the largest concentration of mammals in the contiguous United States, with 67 species, including grizzlies, that can run up to 35 miles per hour despite weighing over 700 pounds. That's why you just don't want to have a run-in with one of them.
No.
If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down.
Yeah.
If it's white, good night. I think that's how you know your bears.
Yes.
Bison have roamed Yellowstone continuously since prehistoric times, making it the only place in the U.S. where they survived without interruption for thousands of years, except for the ones that fall into the geothermal pools.
Yes.
Speaking of, the park's geothermal pools and springs can reach temperatures over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to dissolve a body overnight if someone falls in. Though swimming is strictly prohibited.
Yeah.
You would not make it.
Nope.
Your average hot tub is like 100 to 104, so double that.
Yeah, and it's acidic, I believe.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's no bueno.
Yeah.
Yellowstone's landscape includes petrified forests where ancient redwoods were buried by volcanic ash millions of years ago, preserving them in stone. Despite its beauty, the park has death zones where toxic gases from vents can kill animals and pose risks to humans, contributing to its eerie, otherworldly reputation.
Oh, so some geysers there are not acidic, but some are. So
All right.
it depends on the minerals they interact with.
Either way, don't go in the water.
Yeah, don't go swimming in it.
Yeah, just stay on the wooden path.
Yeah.
We shared that video last year when that one erupted, and remember, it like blew debris everywhere and blew part of the path up.
We shared another video of a woman. She just wanted to like dip her toe in, and I think she did, and then like ran off screaming.
Yeah, as one does when you put your
Yes.
toe in 200-degree water. Yeah, just natural selection. See, that's where it's like sometimes like maybe let the tourists do whatever they want, and we'll thin out the herd.
Yeah, I don't know. I just follow the signs in the parks, please.
They could have a plank that's like not specifically labeled, like, but it goes right up to the edge, and then like so they won't destroy the surrounding area. But
Yeah.
if they fall, it's like, all right, we're getting rid of some of the ones that deserve it.
Oh boy,
All right, I'm gonna take all that, but let's edit that out.
we'll cut that out.
No, we won't. All right. In-depth description of the climate. The region where Austin King went missing is characterized by a cool, temperate continental climate. This area experiences significant variability due to its high elevation, which is generally 7,000 to 11,000 feet. The mountainous terrain in the Absaroka range and isolation leading to rapid weather changes, cold temperatures, and potential for precipitation in any form year-round. The climate is influenced by orographic effects, mountains forcing air upward, causing cooling and moisture release, resulting in cooler, wetter conditions compared to lower park areas. Annual average temperatures hover around 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, or 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, with precipitation averaging 15 to 20 inches, or 38 to 51 centimeters, but higher in the mountains due to enhanced snowfall. Eagle Peak, the park's highest point, amplifies these traits with subalpine to alpine conditions, including persistent winds, fog, and snowpack that can linger into summer or arrive early in fall. Yellowstone seasons are distinct but unpredictable. With elevation playing a key role at higher spots like Eagle Peak, temperatures can be 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 to 11 C, colder than the park's averages. The snowfall can double up to 150 to 300 inches annually versus the park's 72 inches down lower. Spring, which is March to May, transitional with warming days, 30 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but frequent snow rain nights often below freezing. Higher elevations like Eagle Peak retain deep snowpack, increasing avalanche risks. Summer is June to August, mild days, 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. At lower elevations, 50 to 70 at peaks, with cool nights potentially below freezing above 9,000 feet. Afternoon thunderstorms are common, which brings lightning hazards, hail, and brief snow at these heights. Fall, which is September to November, you have rapid cooling, 30 to 60 degrees during the day, teens to single digits at night. Early snow possible, especially in September at elevations. Winds increase and fog and sleet are common in the mountains. And then winter, December to February, it's cold. 0 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, sub-zero at night. Record low is 66 degrees below zero. Heavy snow up to 300 plus inches at the peaks. Blizzards and wind chills below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Backcountry access is heavily
Pretty
limited,
much unhikeable
Yeah.
during that time of the year.
unless you're crazy.
Unless you're crazy.
The terrain. The area where Austin King went missing, the remote southeast backcountry of Yellowstone National Park, including Eagles Peak, Howell Creek, Terrace Point on Yellowstone's Lakes southeast arm, and adjacent thoroughfare region, is part of the Absaroka
Maybe.
Range, yeah, in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem.
That was a mouthful.
It was.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, this rugged, roadless wilderness is one of the most isolated spots in the contiguous United States, with the nearest road over 15 to 25 miles away. It requires boat access or multi-day hikes for entry. So it's real backcountry.
It's backcountry.
That's awesome. Those are my favorite places.
Yeah.
The terrain is dominated by volcanic mountains shaped by ancient eruptions, glacial erosion, and ongoing geological processes, featuring steep ridges, deep drainages, cliffs, and expansive plateaus. Elevations can range from 7,700 feet at Yellowstone Lake to 11,372 feet at Eagle Peak. That is the park's highest point, as we said, and it creates a challenging subalpine to alpine environment with limited trails, high exposure to natural hazards. So the landscape is a mix of forested valleys, open meadows, rocky summits, and water features, making navigation difficult without GPS or maps due to dense vegetation and untrailed sections. Sounds like my kind of hike, honestly.
This is very treacherous terrain.
That's difficult.
You need to be very experienced to hike out here, partly because of the remoteness.
Absolutely.
If something happens, it's going to be a while before help gets to you.
Yeah, so slope and relief, we already went over the elevation. So slope and there's steep gradients up to 5,045 feet of gain over 14 to 16 hours for Eagle Peak hikes. That's wild. That's a lot.
That's intense.
With ridges, plateaus, and valleys creating complex navigation. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I think I just did like 2,000 feet of elevation gain in like 7 or 8 hours, and that was tough. And I
Yeah.
wasn't carrying gear. That was a day hike.
You're just old.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I'm just saying, like, basically doubling that in
Yeah.
time, and you're having way more weight on your back.
Oh, yeah.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
As we said, there's no direct roads, so access is via boat to Terrace Point, then 20 to 40 miles of hiking and bushwhacking. Trails like Eagle Pass or Mountain Creek are partial, often fading into unmaintained wilderness. It's like, I know it sounds bad. I just want to do it now.
Yeah, I would
Like
do
over 5 days.
He did it in September. I would suggest doing it in like July or June.
Yeah, it'll be hotter, but if you have some cover a little bit, or
Probably July would be your best month because that's the least likely you're going to have snow
yeah,
up there.
yeah, snow's the only thing that would get at me. So, types of dangers present outside of all the ones we just listed just from being there. Grizzly bears. So on top of all that stuff, there's grizzlies.
And a lot of them.
Yeah, they're abundant. Largest concentration in the lower 48. So tracks, digs, and encounters, e.g. sows with cubs, are common near the campsites and rivers. Major hazards requiring bear spray.
That's sows or sows?
Sows.
Sows.
I said sows. So
We don't want to upset the bear people.
yeah, black bears present in forested areas, less aggressive than grizzlies, but still a risk. Then you have elk, moose, bison, gray wolf, red foxes, wolverine, bighorn sheep, mountain goats, mountain lions, bobcats. You have everything.
You do have
If the land won't kill you, the animals will.
every large land mammal in North America, other than polar bears, is present, really.
And on that trail, they're all after you. So hazards, Austin, or anyone hiking in the area that at that time, sudden storms and poor visibility, snow and ice, as we said, it can linger into July, cold weather and hypothermia, wildfires, falls and unstable ground. So Eagle Peak involves class 3 and 4 scrambling on the talus slopes. So that's like, you're kind of sometimes on all fours almost. And then it's like one step forward, one step back, one step forward, half a step back.
I've
Like,
hiked on it, and it almost feels like it's almost like there's like an escalator under your feet as you're trying to go up. Like
just
the ground
sliding.
under you is going down.
yeah, it's just, it's so demoralizing
Yeah.
and exhausting.
Yes.
So loose footing and uneven terrain are common with the higher elevation gains. So that leads to fatigue.
Yeah.
There are river and creek crossings, and then just general getting lost because of the unmaintained trails. So the trailless wilderness and dense forest brush combined with fog increase navigation errors. No cell service in much of the area delays help. So yeah, on top of that, even if you're good at reading a map,
Yep.
if you don't have GPS and fog rolls in, you either got to hunker down and wait till it clears up,
Yeah.
or if you're really good with your compass and you know you're heading, but there's a lot of risk in doing that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to hike this without a GPS, backup GPS.
And a beacon. I mean, honestly, you rent
locator beacon.
Yeah, rent a beacon. They're
And,
cheap.
Know how to use a compass and have waterproof maps as a backup.
Yeah, 100%. Altitude-related issues come into effect. There's hot springs and geysers. So they're thin crusts over the scalding water, so you could just step on what looks like solid ground and fall right through. And then if all of that doesn't get you, the toxic gases and fumes could then too.
And in this part of the park, there are some unmarked geysers and hot springs that aren't going to be on a map. So, I mean, if you're aware
You're
of
just in the fog,
Yeah.
wandering around, falling into water.
it's a tough, but would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a legit one. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about Austin King.
Yeah, so he was born around 2002. I don't have a specific date of birth. He went missing on September 17th of 2024. He was a male, age 22. Body description, he was described a white male, slender, athletic build, 6 feet, 160 pounds, brown hair, hazel eyes. He wore glasses. Gear he was last seen in, so he had glasses, black sweatshirt, gray pants. Backcountry gear included a backpack, a tent, sleeping bag, and other hiking essentials like food and navigation. He, when we get into the timeline, think about the time of the year he's hiking. Joe went through the climate. It already sounds like he's not quite prepared for the weather he might experience. So keep that in mind as I'm going through the timeline. Personality, he was described as a very adventurous and exploratory person. He was encouraged by his family to experience new places and challenges. He was described as being very determined and optimistic. He, everyone around him, family, friends, he was someone who embraced outdoor adventure and solitude in nature. So just learning a little bit about him, this place sounds like the perfect place to go hiking. He's going to get his solitude. It's very rugged. And, for someone who's adventurous, that is like, amazing. You don't want to be,
It's the coup de grace.
you don't want to be hiking like the paved trails where, grandmas and grandpas are walking by you. Like that's not fun. I mean, it's fun, but
It is for a different reason.
Yeah.
If you want to experience nature and solitude,
Yeah.
and like in the way, see, I always feel like I like to think about how they explored it before it was all settled. Like you kind of get a little bit of that feeling when you're going off trail and you're actually having to bushwhack.
we experienced this in a very stark manner. Remember the Narrows? We started top down.
Yes.
For the vast majority of it, it was just our group going through the Narrows. And then we had to swim across this big, I guess you call it pond. And we got to the other side. It's where all the tourists were.
Yes.
Remember that? It was
Yeah.
like
That's
tourists
how we
and
knew we were close.
khaki shorts and sandals and big Canon cameras. And we're like, oh, I guess we're done.
Yes.
So,
I'll have that video playing in the background while you're talking.
yeah. So
Pull it up.
occupation, hobby, he was a concession employee at Yellowstone National Park that summer and likely was living in Grant Village. Hobbies obviously were hiking, backcountry trekking, outdoor exploration. He did, solo multi-day trips. Experience in the wilderness, pretty experienced hiker at age 22. He had prior backcountry adventures, including trips in other remote areas. He was comfortable navigating the wilderness, as shown by, he planned to do a 7-day backcountry hike here in Yellowstone. So I would say pretty experienced. 22 is a pretty young age to. I don't know that you've experienced everything by 22, but for most 22-year-olds, he pretty darn experienced. Yes, I loved that trip,
That was a good trip.
especially that hike.
Yep. How long ago was this?
2016.
Jeez.
Are you sharing the video?
Yep.
Okay. I know we haven't done this in a while. Just making sure. Oh, that was, we had to.
See how we unclipped our bags, everybody?
Well,
That was a big thing when you go through the water, unclip. I don't think Ben did.
Dan didn't either.
Yeah, they didn't listen. I had mine unclipped.
That water was cold.
It was so cold.
Experience in this location. So obviously he worked and lived in Yellowstone that summer, so he was gaining familiarity with the park overall. However, this was his first known solo trek into this remote area of the park, which like Joe said, is one of the most isolated sections and requires boat access. So he never had been to this area before. So, there's Angels Landing.
Yep.
Yep. That's cool.
Super cool. Stop getting distracted.
I know. I want to go back. Okay, jumping right into timeline. So it's August 15th, 2024 to early September 2024. So King, obviously an experienced hiker, planned a 7-day trek to Eagle Peak. A missing persons flyer would later note that he would travel to Terrace Point by boat and then hike towards Eagle Peak, summit the mountain, and return to the for a boat pickup at Yellowstone Lake's southeast arm. He had told friends and family he wanted to see the remote area south of the mountain. So King was already living and working, like I said, in the park as a concession employee. So the planning phase may have occurred while he was on site. He obviously attained a backcountry permit for the trip, which is standard protocol for something like this in an area this remote. It's now Friday, September 13th of 2024. So King travels from Minnesota to Yellowstone National Park. He used his family's RV, and he checked into the Grant Village area where many concession employees lived. He set up base at his RV and prepared his gear for the trip. It's now Saturday, September 14th of 2024. So King now has been dropped off by a park boat at Terrace Point on the southeast arm of Yellowstone Lake. And this would be the beginning of his trek towards Eagle Peak. And a missing persons flyer later reported that he planned to hike towards Howell Creek and then ascend to Eagle Peak. It's now Monday, September. Sorry, just laughing at something on the video.
Dan attempting to not get wet.
Yeah.
After we'd been swimming, basically. In it.
Yes.
So
it's now Monday, September 26th of 2024. 2 days into the hike, King visits the Howell Creek cabin. This cabin was not on his intended route, so for some reason he deviated from the original plan. He actually did speak with a backcountry ranger and explained that he intended to climb Eagle Peak the following day. That night, he stayed at a nearby campsite, 6DB. This would be the last in-person sighting of King. The ranger noted that he appeared in good spirits and adequately equipped, though the cabin visit obviously raises questions about why he deviated from his original plan. It's now Tuesday, September 17th of 2024. It's late afternoon, maybe early evening. So King climbs Eagle Peak in very poor weather. It's around 7 p.m. He actually telephoned friends and family from the summit, and in his calls, he described fog, rain, sleet, hail, and windy conditions. So Joe's got the area pulled up on All Trails here. Right away, this would be something I wouldn't do. I don't think you would do either, Joe. If I'm there for 7 days, I would not be summiting an 11,000 foot peak in fog, rain, sleet, and hail.
I mean, not in those conditions. If it wasn't doing that stuff, I probably would do it.
Well, yeah, but so I think anyone listening, like, you don't want to, your life's not
It's unnecessary.
worth losing over. You just wait an extra day.
Yeah.
So he had also left a voicemail for his father that arrived a week later. It indicated that he was disorientated. I said that right?
Nope. Disoriented.
Disoriented.
Although I think you can say them both ways.
I know. We go
learned
through
that.
this every time.
Yep.
Disoriented.
Yep.
And may have ascended the wrong route. So we've got a couple issues here now. And this is why Joe mentioned earlier that the terrain is so hard to navigate in good conditions. Try doing it in fog and sleet and hail. And he went down the mountain the wrong way. So this is now a major issue for him. It's Tuesday, September 17th of 2024, 6 p.m. King wrote a lengthy entry in the register at the summit of Eagle Peak. This was very important for the case because it gave insight into his condition. He wrote that he couldn't feel his fingers, his glasses were fogged, and he endured rain, sleet, hail, and the most wind I've ever felt. He also had free soloed, which is climbing without ropes, too many cliffs before reaching the peak. He admitted he had hiked up from the connecting peak, not the right path, and said he could not see Eagle Peak due to the dense fog. He also added that he was 22 years old and would never forget the day, concluding with, "Life is beautiful, get out and live it." So he's still in pretty good spirits for the condition he's in, and Joe's got the actual
an image in the note.
image of the
He
note.
he even drew a smiley face
Yeah, so
at the end of it.
I would say at this point he's in pretty rough condition.
You know what that is, though? What that looks like to me, if I can take some liberty, you know, when we've been through some pretty hard moments in hiking and you're
Yeah.
kind of like jacked up and a little
Yeah.
jazzed, like, whoa, what did I just go through? Like, we made it through. It seems more like, holy crap, like, this is the most fog I ever seen. This is the craziest thing I ever did. I'm here. Like, I made it.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably in decent spirits, but beaten down a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
worn out, but like optimistic. Of like,
Probably
look what I just did.
Soaked. I've been in rain like that on Mount Rainier,
Yeah.
and I had rain gear on and it soaked right through it. He's cold. He said his fingers were numb, so
Yep.
probably hypothermia of some stage is setting in at this point.
And I wasn't sharing it right. Now I am. I'm all
Should
good.
have asked you.
Yep.
So yeah, we did that episode a month or so ago where I had the timeline of the body breaking down. He's in some rough shape at this point, and it's in another park. This might not be as bad of a situation, but this area is so remote. It's, I don't know. This would be tough for anyone to endure
Yeah.
this condition. So the entry was time stamped around 6 p.m. and that would be about an hour before sunset. The note was later discovered by searchers and photographed, which Joe had up on the screen. And like I said, it provided crucial insights into his physical and mental state and suggests that there were some hypothermia risks already setting in. And now Joe is clicking through some photos from the actual search of the area, and you can just see how insanely rugged it is.
Yeah. There's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful, but
Absolutely beautiful.
oh, that looks like a little road or cross. Is that what is that?
There's some power lines.
Power lines.
And then it's just a shot of the mountain from far away.
Yeah. It's a search helicopter.
Yep. You don't have to describe it. They're seeing it.
Well, I'm just, for those listening that don't watch the video. So Wednesday, September 18th of 2024, after leaving the summit note and the calls, he began his descent. At this point, there were no more communications. Volunteers later speculated he may have become lost on the descent, particularly because he had used an unmarked route to ascend and the visibility was very poor. That's a cool map. So Joe has a map up here of every area searchers. I mean, look, they covered so much ground.
Yeah, they covered most of the mountain.
Now, I don't know if there's does it tell what the colors mean? So
Yeah.
ground, helicopter. Okay.
Yeah, so is that red? I'm colorblind.
Yeah, ground is red.
Blue is helicopter, and then drones are the black.
So, I mean, they covered and there's Eagle Peak, and you can see there are areas where they didn't really get in there, though.
On
mean-
foot, you're saying?
Or just in general, like the section right above Eagle Peak doesn't really have any.
No, there's some blue.
Oh, I guess.
I think that's how many passes. Like they're probably they probably doubled over a lot of areas. But,
Yeah.
I mean, they covered a lot.
Yeah, it's just really interesting.
That's really interesting. That's crazy.
It's now Thursday, September 19th of 2024. So we're not entirely sure, but people have speculated that he likely attempted to hike back toward the southeast arm of Yellowstone Lake to meet his scheduled boat pickup. And there were still no communications at this point. So it's Friday, September 20th of 2024 afternoon. King failed to arrive at his arranged boat pickup near Yellowstone Lake's southeast arm. He was reported overdue to the Yellowstone Interagency Communications Center at this time. It's the same day, so Friday, September 20th of 2024. It's the evening now. So after he was reported overdue, rangers attempted to contact King via calls and texts. There were obviously no responses. The overdue report triggered immediate protocol checks. It's now Saturday, September 21st of 2024. It's the morning. So at first light, Yellowstone and Grand Teton Rangers, Park County search and rescue teams, and volunteers began searching the Eagle Peak area. Right away, initially, we're talking, he was reported overdue Friday. It's the morning on Saturday. They already had 20 ground searchers, 2 helicopters, unmanned air systems, and a search dog team in the area. So pretty big response for being less than 24 hours overdue. Sadly, he could have been missing for several days at this point, because this was he was reported overdue when he was supposed to meet the boat to get picked up. So,
Yeah, it could have been right after he summited.
could have been. I mean, it sounded like he was in pretty rough shape. So, So it's Saturday, September 21st of 2024. It's the evening now. And searchers actually find King's campsite and personal belongings in the upper Howell Creek area, north of Eagle Peak. And this was important because it suggested that King had set up camp before attempting his summit. And items found at the camp included a tent, backpack, and food. And importantly, no signs of a struggle. So keep that in mind during theories. It's now Sunday, September 22nd of 2024. The MPS announced that King had called friends and family from the summit on September 17th and that he had encountered fog, rain, sleet, hail, and windy conditions. At this time, searchers were focused on Eagle Peak, Eagle Pass Mountain, the Eagle Pass Mountain Creek Trail, Eagle Creek Trailhead, and Shoshone National Forest. It's now Monday, September 23rd of 2024. At this time, Yellowstone officials asked anyone who had traveled near Eagle Peak since September 14th to report potential sightings. Media outlets were now kind of picking up on the story. They were widely reporting the search and King's physical description. It's now Tuesday, September 24th. Search teams now are encountering deep snowdrifts up to 6 feet. And this is only September. And fog near Eagle Peak. At this point, they had over 85 personnel searching, 2 helicopters, a search dog, and a drone. And they were searching ridges, drainages, all in kind of the Howell Creek area. And they also followed up on cellular activity from King's phone on the 17th. And they were able to get some pings from it that kind of pinpointed and confirmed that he was kind of up on the peak on that day. And I believe they weren't able to get any other cell phone pings after that point, which doesn't necessarily mean anything because cell service in this area is pretty poor.
Yeah.
So,
And if he's turning it off in between using it,
I
do that a lot in backcountries. I'll just
Yeah.
have it off when I'm not using it.
I'll turn it on to take pictures and then
Exactly.
turn it off. Yeah, you want to conserve the battery.
Or I put it in airplane mode, so it's only in camera mode,
Yeah.
like super low power.
Yeah. So Friday, September 27th, the MPS now reports that 96 personnel, 2 helicopters, a search dog, and a drone were deployed in the steep terrain. So the search is still ramping up. What did I say? What was the first day he was reported missing? So they
When the boat was due.
So yeah, the 20th, and then the search started the morning of the 21st, and they kept ramping up the search. It's now Friday the 27th, and they're still ramping up the search. So that's pretty cool to see that more personnel are getting into the area, and you really need as many people as you can get out here just because of, look at this trail.
Yeah, it's wild.
That is wild.
Once you're like 15 miles in, that's when it starts getting real hard.
It's impressive that he made it to the summit in those conditions.
Yeah.
Just even made it up there.
Along that backbone.
That's wild.
That is wild.
I couldn't. What do you think he was thinking? Like going up there, like, do I turn around or just keep
sheer
going?
willpower.
Yeah.
Like I've made it this far.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow. So teams continued to follow leads from King's cellular data and thoroughly searched ridges and valleys. And like I said, this was on the 27th, which was a Friday. It's now Tuesday, October 1st of 2024. So snow and severe weather repeatedly hampered ground crews At this point, King's family and volunteers in Cody, Wyoming began organizing private search teams, which they were coordinating with Yellowstone staff. October 2nd of 2024, after 11 days of searching and covering more than 3,225 miles by air and ground, over 100 personnel, 2 helicopters, search dog teams, trackers, and a drone, the MPS announced that they were scaling back and transitioning from a rescue to a recovery. And I say it every episode, but they can't keep the search going forever.
Yeah.
And based on the evidence they had, he was already in pretty rough condition on the 17th. And it's now the 2nd of October, and these conditions are bad. The weather conditions are bad, and the chances of someone surviving that long. And like, I remember when I told you about his gear that he had, he didn't really have the proper gear for this weather. And it sounds like he left most of it at his campsite. And he had a sleeping bag, but it was unaccounted for. So he had no shelter even. You might be able to hunker down in a tent. If it's snowing, rain is going to soak right through it.
How many reviews there are? 12.
12.
Like, that is how.
What are some of the...
There's only one written one. It says popular horse trail, bridge is closed off but still accessible. Trail ends at the pass, bushwhacking ridge walk to mountain face. Lucas wrote, great views. That's wild.
Yeah. Not crowded. That was one of the comments. So Yellowstone Superintendent Cam Shally explained that future operations would be limited and weather dependent. It's now Friday, October 11th of 2024. King's father released a copy of the note that Joe was showing earlier, found at the summit. Cowboy State Daily and other outlets published the full text. The note obviously described his suffering and emphasized that he had taken the wrong path. So at this point, volunteers are organizing under John Lamb and Bill Doze. They were planning multi-day searches and established a base camp on the Cody side of the mountain. At this point, though, MPS actually denied helicopter drops in the mid-October timeframe due to wilderness regulations and risk. So these were all ground-only searches at this point. And one interesting note, technology-wise, is someone donated a bunch of Starlink systems, and they used that for remote communications on the search, on the private search. So
that's nice.
Kind of interesting. It's mid-October of 2024 now, so private search teams, they had about a dozen volunteers, search dogs and drones, combed steep drainages and cliffs around Eagle Peak, while Yellowstone provided limited aerial support. Volunteers noted falling rocks, grizzly bears, and impending snow as hazards. Everything Joe mentioned in the location profile.
Yeah, so it's not like that kind of comes up. It's just always like
There's
that.
just always bears around.
Yeah,
So
just bears.
Park officials did caution the volunteers about these dangers with the terrain and inclement weather. So the worst case scenario is that you have all these volunteers out there and then they start going missing. So, while the Park Service will probably, they're grateful that these people are out there searching, you gotta, they're probably very nervous whenever these volunteer private search and rescue operations go out there.
Yeah, it might turn into an additional person to search for.
Yeah. It's now late October 2024 through the winter of 2024 and 2025. So at this point, heavy snow is hitting the peak, and the volunteer searches had to wind down, and Yellowstone's limited operations were paused, and King remained missing at this point. So obviously this is a very recent case. So we have activity going on up until the last couple of days. It's now May of 2025, just a couple months ago. So with the snow receding, King's family requested renewed search efforts. Yellowstone officials and private search coordinators evaluated when conditions would allow teams to return to the mountain. So between May 2025 and early August of 2025, there were some additional searches that happened. There was a fundraiser between May and June that raised funds for drones, canine units, and helicopters. Early July of 2025, Yellowstone issued a new statement that teams would attempt another search for King's remains in July. The mission would be smaller, obviously because of resource constraints and the hazardous terrain. The park again cautioned the volunteers that were going out there. On July 11th of 2025, less than a month ago, Brian King returned to Wyoming to help with a recovery mission. He worked with mountaineers and search dogs to plan for an attempt to reach the steep areas that had been snow-covered during the previous search. Between July 18th and July 20th of 2025, about a dozen expert climbers and a canine team hiked into Eagle Peak area, exploring cliffs and ravines not previously searched. Unfortunately, weather once again limited this search and no remains were found. It's now late July and into early August. Just days ago, volunteer and park teams revisited the area when the weather allowed. And as of the current date, which is August 6th, Austin King has not been found. So he's still missing. No remains have been found. So kind of interesting. We don't really do very recent cases. But it's pretty amazing. They're still out there right now conducting searches for him. So we're going to do the thing again, Joe, where I have 3 buckets of theories. Got likely.
All right. I will make mention too. There's
still a
GoFundMe going for helicopter support.
Okay.
Search. 2 hours ago, there was a donation for $15. So it's very live.
We will link to this GoFundMe, and anyone listening, if you want to help the search effort, head over to this GoFundMe and even give them a few bucks. Anything can help. Those helicopter searches are not cheap.
Yeah, they're looking for 50,000. So
And
only 4%. So they got a $1,000 donation from somebody.
They raised $1,800.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you can donate like $1 on these things. Maybe not. I don't know if there's like a lower limit, but I don't know.
We'll post a link to it. Anyone who wants to help the search can.
I'm just trying to think if anyone's like, hey, if you want to help a little bit, if you get, 50,000 people to donate $1,
yeah,
you hit your goal. So yeah, if you can donate a little
even
bit,
$5.
skip a coffee one day and give them $5.
Maybe our locations unknown will drop a donation.
There we go.
We'll lead the charge.
Boom.
So Joe, we're going to do a little thing I've done for some episodes for theories. So we've got 3 buckets. We've got likely theories. We've got theoretically likely, or theoretically possible, but not likely.
So highly unlikely?
Yes, highly unlikely. And then, holy cow, this should be an X-Files episode.
Off the deep end?
Yeah.
All right.
So, likely theories. I'll go through those quick here. So, hypothermia exposure is top of the list. We already know he was probably experiencing early stages hypothermia from his letter. He described himself as being cold, wet, numb in the fog. Never good when your hands are numb from the cold. That's always a bad sign. He was experiencing rain, sleet, hail, high winds during his summit calls. At Eagle Peak's 11,364 feet of elevation in mid-September, temperatures can drop below freezing, with wind chills just speeding hypothermia up. And obviously he had light clothing. Black sweatshirt, gray pants would be soaked.
Yeah, wet, windy, cold.
Yeah.
Not a good combination.
And he had no shelter. His sleeping bag was unaccounted for. This could have led to rapid deterioration, especially if it was overnight. Searchers encountered 6-foot snowdrifts shortly after, and family and experts, including his father, have emphasized weather is the likely culprit. The second most possible theory of what might have happened to King was a fall from a cliff or ridge. He admitted that he had been free soloing cliffs via a wrong path in dense fog on Eagle Peak's steep trailless terrain. This has sheer drops, loose talus. It's poor visibility. Could have slipped and fallen into a ravine, a drainage where remains might be hidden by rocks, snow, vegetation. I mean, he could have slipped on a talus field and then there could have been a rockfall that covered up his remains. I mean, that's entirely plausible, and searchers may never find that.
Yeah.
And this is, again, consistent with reports and the focus of searches on steep ridges and valleys north of the peak. And similar falls have occurred in this area in the past. So this is not something that hasn't happened before. Third theory on the most likely list is just getting lost. So fog was obviously obscuring views, and he was in an area where a lot of the trails are unmarked, and he easily could have gone off trail, on his descent, wandered into a remote wilderness where he succumbed to exhaustion, injury, or exposure. His campsite was found north of the peak, but no further traces and cell pings no further traces of him were found, and the cell pings ended at the summit. And like Joe had mentioned, this area that he was in was 30 plus miles from a road. So, very remote, and easily could have just wandered out of the search area. Though in his condition and those weather conditions, I don't know how far in this terrain, I don't know how far you could get.
Yeah.
He was, like I said, I think he was in pretty rough shape by the time he hit the summit. All right, we're into the second bucket. Possible, but less likely. So animal attack. Obviously, this place is crawling with grizzlies. And the southeast backcountry area of Yellowstone has a very high grizzly density. You never want to hear that if you're going hiking somewhere.
Yeah.
High grizzly density. And bears could have scavenged remains after his death. However, there were no signs of a struggle. There was no scat or drag. No drag marks were found at his camp or along the routes. And attacks are rare. There's only been 8 fatal attacks in park history. And like Joe said, this is the oldest park in the U.S.
Yeah.
And there's only been 8 fatal grizzly attacks with that many grizzlies in the park. So probably extremely rare. And grizzlies probably aren't going to be up that high in those terrible weather conditions. So could be wrong, but I think, King's gear showed no damage, and this really makes this unlikely as a primary cause, though it's obviously speculated in online discussions. Another interesting theory was drowning in a creek or lake. So if lost, he might have fallen into Howell Creek or a drainage during descent with swift currents carrying him away. However, September runoff in that area is low, but it's cold. I mean, if he's already somewhat hypothermic and falls into that water, that could be game over. But, at this time of year, the runoff is low, so it's not going to be too swift moving. It's not like spring melts where some of the creeks and rivers are, turn into
Just really swelled over.
Yeah. So, it falling into the water could induce shock, but there was no evidence near water crossings, and his planned return was lakeside. But searchers didn't yield items in waterways, so they really kind of reduced the likelihood of this scenario happening. Another theory that could have happened, but really not likely, is suicide or intentional disappearance. So his notes, tone, life is beautiful, get out and live it, could be interpreted as a farewell, and some have speculated that emotional distress from the trek's hardship could have pushed him to this state. However, the family, like I mentioned in the character profile, described him as adventurous and optimistic with no history of mental health issues or motives to vanish.
And I will never forget today the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Life is beautiful. Go out and live it. Smiley face.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound negative at all. So,
No.
yeah, whoever said that's wrong.
And he was calling loved ones and checking in with them. So,
Yeah.
it's a theory, but obviously
It's a terrible theory.
not very likely.
Yep.
Final theory in this bucket is foul play by another person. So theoretically, an encounter with another hiker or poacher in the wilderness could lead to harm, but the area's extreme isolation, so few visitors and no reports of others nearby, makes this very improbable. And
Theoretically, I could win the lottery this week.
theoretically, you could.
I could.
And there's no evidence of conflict, and King's communications showed no distress from interactions with people. So, finally, we'll get into some of the the X-Files theories. So Bigfoot or cryptid encounter. So Yellowstone is a Bigfoot sighting hotspot with theories that a Sasquatch abducted or attacked King, dragging him to a hidden lair. His disappearance without a trace fuels this, echoing stories of wild men in this range, though this is obviously easily dismissed by experts as a myth. So, another one is alien abduction or UFO involvement. So the park's vast, unmonitored skies and history of UFO reports tied to its volcanic energy lead to ideas that extraterrestrial beamed him up from the summit. Fog and isolation could cover this. So, he was beamed up on the summit.
Okay.
A dimensional portal or time slip. Folklore claims Yellowstone's geothermal features create portals to other dimensions or times. King might have stepped through one on the foggy peak, explaining no remains. This draws from, obviously, pseudoscience about the park's caldera as a vortex, with parallels to the Bermuda Triangle-style tales. So,
I went to the Oregon vortex.
did you feel anything?
No, but you remember we covered that on the episode with
Yeah.
like the house that's sideways?
Oh, you went there?
I went there.
Cool. Take some pictures.
I did.
All right. Finally, this one will fit right in with the missing 411 books. So we shall not name the person's name.
He who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named. So, I got some stuff to talk about him in our Patreon episode next.
All right. Yeah,
So-
if you want to hear all the juicy gossip, you
All
better
the-
sign up for Patreon.
The venting. Well,
Yes.
I got some theories on that guy.
all right.
So the final one is
If we want to blow this show up, maybe you should drop them now, and then we'll get a lawsuit, and then it'll become national news.
I'd rather tease it and then get a few more Patreon
All right.
supporters.
All right, let's do that.
So government conspiracy or cover up. Speculation swirls the MPS or secret agencies hid his body to conceal park dangers. Either they're worried about unstable geology or experiments, or that he stumbled on a classified hidden facility. The transition to limited searches and wilderness restrictions fuel this paranoia, but are baseless. So those are
But are baseless.
baseless.
That's
So
the best part.
those are the theories, Joe. What are you thinking?
I think exposure or a fall.
Exposure or fall?
I think what really stuck out to me was if he was writing about all the fog and the hardship of getting up there,
Yeah.
going down, you're going to be a little bit more reckless. If he's already experiencing hypothermia, he's not making good decisions. He could like step off of a cliff, like had a major fall, like you said, maybe get buried in scree. I think, yeah, succumb to the elements for sure. It's a matter of how and where.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
No, I'm on your train with this one. I think he was already experiencing hypothermia when he wrote that note, and he descended on the wrong path. In those conditions, he was probably soaking wet, lost, couldn't see. It was night. He probably slipped and fell. And I think, yeah, maybe he was covered by debris, which is why the search teams weren't able to find his remains, and why his remains may never be found. If it's covered under a rock fall, you're probably not going to find those remains. And he didn't have a ton of gear with him. So it's not, they found a lot of his gear at the campsite. There's not necessarily going to be like gear. If he fell down the side of a mountain, maybe like gear would fly off and they would find something to indicate that he might be in the area, but he didn't have a lot of gear with him. So they may not find his remains, sadly. Or he just wandered off into an area that wasn't searched thoroughly, and maybe a couple years down the road, somebody will find something. You never know. Sometimes these cases can go 5, 10, 15 years, and then someone will find a bone And
That was Paul Miller, like our second episode.
that was a couple years, but same
but
theory, yeah.
but in that regard,
And he was like right near the trail.
exactly, and that took several years.
Yeah.
to get. So that's
And
kinda what I
that
was getting
terrain
at.
was nowhere near. That was Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it was a heavily traveled area
Yeah.
that was combed over thoroughly. Still took a
Not
couple
heavy
years.
vegetation either.
Yeah, so
And it took him 3 years to find his remains.
absolutely, it's a lot of space to cover.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think elements, and unfortunately, just that's what happened.
yeah,
You agree?
I agree. So, yeah, anyone listening, if you want to help the search, we'll post the GoFundMe and our show will donate something to help it.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
But thanks again for tuning into our show. We appreciate all of you for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can find the videos of each episode. Also, if you want to support the show monetarily, please visit our website or Facebook store to buy some cool swag, or the Hiker's Cash now available. And you can subscribe to our Patreon account, YouTube, and Apple subscriptions, where you have access to special events and additional shows for paid customers only. Lastly, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time.